When you start living with the end in mind, everything starts to change. What are people going to say about you? What message is your life going to speak when you're long gone? Because you weren't born by accident. You didn't just happen to be where you're at and happen to watch this video. There is always a reason.
All right, so we're theoretically live, but usually the first couple of minutes, Facebook just kind of rolls it out.
I know. It takes a minute for people to see. Plus, they need to see it on their phone. But hey, I like your sign.
That one?
That's legit. Born for more.
Born for more.
That's right. But how about this? Born to roar.
Oh, yeah, I like it. I'm writing it down.
Let's go. Let's get that thing. Let's go hunting and get that thing, man. Let's whip it out. Get the claws ready. Hey, we can't be like the cowardly lion and run away from ghosts.
Yeah.
We gotta hit them. We gotta receive the Holy Ghost. You feel me?
Yeah.
Or like this cup says, be a boss, be a boss.
Oh, this is gonna be fire.
Be a boss, baby. Come on, let's be a boss.
Boss. I'm just tagging you in so it shows up on your page too, and then we're good to go.
Should I have my assistant Cricket share it too?
Yeah, you might as well. Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna have to yell at her from here. Cricket!
No worries.
Cricket! Can you share Joseph's post to the HFJ page? Can you share Joseph's post to the HFJ page and the Annie page? Because we're live. Right now we're live. She said absolutely. She is the best, by the way. You guys, if you want to learn anything on this talk today, if you want your dreams to come true, find yourself a Jonathan. Find yourself an assistant that kicks ass, okay?
Wow.
She kicks ass. Just saying. Yeah.
Kaylin, are you listening? Kaylin is a lion in my life who was like that. She does our admin work. She's awesome.
Hey, Kaylin. What's up, Kaylin? Shout out to you, girl. Yeah. Go get that money, girl. Come on.
All right, man. This is going to be crazy. So let's begin this thing. I just want to welcome everybody. Episode number 9, where we have casual chats about all things serious. And today I am with Annie, who is a fiery lion. We've already been fired up. I'm fired up already. And so I'm just going to let her introduce herself, and we're going to go there today. So Annie, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So some of you might not know who I am, which I love versions that don't know who I am. Okay. And I mean, like, you've never heard of me. So I am a girl from Minnesota, and I run a nonprofit. I am a entrepreneur as well. I started my nonprofit the original one was 2005, but then I refiled in 2007. And so it's called Hookers for Jesus. Yes, you heard it right. And it means I will teach you how to fish for people. And it is basically a outreach. And we also have a home for women that have been sex trafficked. And when I started doing this many years ago, nobody was doing it. We're the first safe house in the country, basically.
Wow.
And survivor led. So from my own story, that's the reason why I started it. It wasn't some weird, like, random. I went and I prayed, and all of a sudden I saw, ex trafficking victims, crying. I was one. So that's where it comes out of. It comes out of my own pain and, the deep healing work that I needed to do and that I'm still doing. I want to encourage everyone out there. You ain't ready till you continue to heal. Okay. You have to, it's a lifelong process till I die. And I'm always learning and trying to pour more love into myself from the Holy Spirit. So Hookers for Jesus, and our place is called Destiny House. And we've been doing this type of work for about 15 years. I have a lot of knowledge here and trust and believe that when I say a lot of knowledge, I mean hardcore experience in helping this population. And by the way, what they say about women that have been sex trafficked, ladies and young girls that have been sex trafficked. Many doctors are saying the past couple of years specifically very honed in on complex trauma, but complex trauma is caused by usually family abuse or when you were growing up. And so it just turns into someone being vulnerable to be sold for sex. And then 90 to 97% of addicts have complex trauma. So if you rewind their life and you look back at and you put the lamp on them, basically the truth is that this type of ministry is for broken people that have been abused and used and thrown away, and for misfits. And I love misfits. I feel like I'm the Velveteen Rabbit sometimes, and these girls are the Velveteen Rabbit because people use them and throw them away, and then no one loves them. So, I love what I do, and I am learning again and trying to expand and trying to do new things and do things that I know God called me to do. So I also talk too much.
Man, you are fiery.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into this a little bit. So in Fuse Life, we're all about God-given assignment, destiny, and there's something we talk about, the 3-part cycle. We confront your past, correct your present, create your future. And so if you don't mind, could we go into a little bit of your past, your childhood, what kind of happened that led you down that path that you're in now?
Right. So I'm not a foster kid or a runaway kid, but I could have been a runaway kid because my dad was just like the person I would want to run away from. My family was a military family. My dad was in the Air Force. He was an alcoholic. His father before him was very abusive, and he actually drove in Chicago for the part-time speakeasy stuff and some mob stuff. And so he wasn't home that much. And my grandmother would get really mad at my grandfather, and she would tell him, just don't come home if you've been drinking. So my dad got to see his father half of his life. Because of that, my dad, he didn't turn out so well. And so I didn't realize at the time, but the more I study trauma and complex trauma, I believe and know with all the signs that I was shown growing up, my dad had it like hook, line, and sinker. He was there. And when you have that type of disorder, and it causes a subset of so many disorders, you are not going to be a good father probably unless you're getting your healing and unless you're working on that part. My dad went to AA, got sober. He was there for a year and quit. Didn't keep accountability. Although he didn't drink for 42 years, Joseph. At the end of his life, before he died in 2016, he started drinking again about 3 years before he died. And thank goodness he got put in this place where he had to be in a hospital, and he had nurses attending him. And the last 2 years of his life, I got to, of course, I had a great relationship by them because in 2006, we reunited our relationship and made up, and he apologized to me, but my daddy was very abusive, and he would yell and scream and hit, punch, kick. He'd punch my mom. He'd give her bloody noses. He'd give her a black eye in front of his kids. And that's what I grew up in. And I was always hiding under my bed. I was always hiding in my closet. We had rules in our house that were so strict. Like I had to dust things a certain kind of way to where if I did it wrong, he would make me do it again. And that would take hours, by the way, because when you dust our house had antiques everywhere. And antiques are very intricate and little figurines and all kinds of clocks and crazy stuff. So my dad would make me do it again. And then when we got in fights with my sister and my 2 brothers that I live with and that I was, grew up with, we had to be put in the corner, and we would have to sit in the corner for hours without food and water. And then we would skip going to dinner because that was our punishment. So, and then we had a belt. My dad cut this belt, and it was about this thick, and he took a strap and cut little welts into it, like little, like what you would whip a horse with, or it's got little fringes on it. He took that, and that was one of our punishments as well. Bareback, boom, like that. And so our skin would snap, it would become blistered, it would bleed sometimes. So it was kind of crazy growing up because I was a TV kid. Escapism. So it's something in trauma called fantasy to escapism. Something that I did is I watched TV a lot, and I grew up with like the Brady Bunch, I Dream of Jeannie. I mean, I'm totally dating myself, but these were like reruns playing on the television, and Facts of Life, Different Strokes, just all these shows about like Addams Family. I know it sounds crazy, the Munsters. Even though some of the families were dysfunctional, all I could tell the difference between my family and those families was the fact that there was no love in my family. They had love. They were dysfunctional, Not perfect, but there was love there. There was acceptance. There was people working out their problems, right? And so I went to church. I was a Lutheran every Sunday, like clockwork. We had to go. My dad forced us. So can you imagine me and my relationship with Jesus? I was like, I knew him, but I didn't know him. Like I accepted him into my heart when I was 4 or 5 years old, but it was very distant and I didn't really understand. I always thought God was angry at me. And then Jesus was like my Band-Aid. Like he was the in-between going, don't hit her. I'm in place. So I never really grasped like a strong relationship with him. I knew he was real though. I can't explain that feeling, but I just knew like on Christmas, it was like Christmas Eve was like the best time for me because I could feel his presence on me. I could feel him talking to me and just being in my room and listening to the music kind of activate the worship, right? Activated that silent night, holy night. And just like, so anyway, when I became a teenager, and I'll just cut to the chase what happened. I was noticing kids in school that were looking at me and the boys especially. And I became very entwined with this boy in school that I fell in love with him and he was cheating on me and I broke my heart. And at that point, I kind of flipped a switch in my head. And I know some of you listening out there have done this where ladies or men, you have fallen in love with someone and they hurt you and it was your first love and your first heartbreak and something changes in your mind. Something changes in your psyche where you decide, I'm never going to let that happen to me again. And you have this guard up, this wall starts being built in your heart. And so I went out into the world, graduated high school, wanted to go to college, couldn't afford it. My dad and mom didn't have the money. My dad spent all his money on antiques. He was an addict to buying things. He taught me the best part of materialism, buy things and you'll be happy, right? Yeah, right. So I decided to get 3 jobs and try to make money for college because I wanted to go to music college. And I wanted to be an artist. I still love to paint and I still love to sing and I still love to create. So one of my little creative veins that I know God's given me. But so I went and I had already written a couple songs at this point. You know, I couldn't read notes, but I was like wanting to pursue something. And my girlfriend and I were at a club one night and these 2 guys walked in with, oh boy, length all the way to the floor furs down to their ankles. And we were in Minnesota, so go figure, right? They were real furs. They weren't fake. We didn't know it at the time, but they were pimps and AKA sex traffickers. That word back then was not yet invented. That was in the 1980s. So that word did not get invented until 2000. So yes, they were sex traffickers. We had no clue. They bought us drinks. My girlfriend starts seeing one of the men. She starts dating him. He's throwing all this money at her. He bought her this diamond ring, went to Hawaii, took her on this fantastic vacation. She got turned out. What I mean by that is she was actually shown how to sell her body by one of his best friend's girls, which was called the bottom girl in the game. And she learned how to sell herself on the Waikiki Beach streets. And she called me up and said, hey girl, I got this proposition for you. And I was like, do tell. She's like, girl, you'll never have to work another day in your life after you do this. And I was like, what? And so I came to Hawaii. They flew me out there. And the first night that I worked, I sold myself. And before that, I had been in a bunch of different relationships with different men after I graduated high school, that men that used me, date raped me, all kinds of craziness. And my heart kept getting broken left and right. So I was pretty bitter at this point. I was still a teenager. And so to charge someone for my services that I wasn't getting paid from before and to capitalize and exploit that idea was like ideal for me. I was like, yeah,
I get you.
I can get back all the men. I can use them now. I can show them who the boss is. I'm in control of my destiny. Back then, no social media. I mean, we had the computers were like these giant things like this. We didn't even have the internet back then. So this is all being done under the radar, right? In the secret society of sex trafficking. Nobody knew that this was going on, except for a few people in the government, and they just let it go. Like there was escort ads, escort service ads. In fact, if I showed you a Yellow Pages from years ago, because I have one saved, they've got like this in Las Vegas, like this thick. It's called the entertainment section. It's still there, by the way, of escort ads of women that will come directly to you in 20 minutes, or young girls for a nominal fee to strip nude in your room. And you do a lot more than that, obviously, even though it's illegal. So I ended up leaving Hawaii after 2-3 weeks, and I quit all my jobs, Joseph.
Oh, tell me this. How old are you when you get to Hawaii?
I was 19.
19, okay.
I was just about to turn 19. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me ask you one question. If somebody was to see you from the outside and see you as a 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old, what would they have seen and what would they have missed?
Well, for sure. I mean, I was a little hot number, okay? I had a cute body, I was tan, and I was spicy, okay? And what I think somebody probably saw in me is a girl that was lost and a girl that was really outgoing, but promiscuous, and knew she was cute and knew how to work it. But I think they would have seen some naivety and some vulnerability in me, because I just like loved my life and trusted everybody. And I was so excited. I was so excited to make this money, because listen, here's the deal. I never had money growing up, Joseph. I wore used clothes going to high school. I made my own clothes because I was tired of having used clothing. I never had nice things. And so it was like, it was such an easy marriage. It was literally like this, like, you know, the heart of the ocean ring, right? So my husband got this for me in Mexico. But anyway, we were on a cruise a couple years ago. And so I put the sex industry, this was the representation of the marriage to it. I put it on and I was like, this isn't coming off, because I realized that I had power now. And even though I thought I was fooling everyone, no, you know, honestly, I probably wasn't fooling many people. You know, I knew God saw me and knew what I was doing, and I just shut him down in my mind. I just shut it down. I was like, shut it down. I was like, no, I told God, I was like, I'm just going to do this for a couple months. Don't worry about me right now. And then I'll get back to you later. And I knew, Joseph, that I had a call in my life, because I remember the Holy Spirit speaking to me when I went to this Lutheran Christian school for a couple years, because my dad didn't want us to go to this inner city school. It was like crazy. But anyway, it's a long story. It was $150 a month, and we couldn't even afford it. My mom and dad scraped the money together to make me go. But I remember Miss Barbara, and I remember sitting in that school, and it was a really nice school, actually. They were so kind there. And I remember feeling the presence of God there and the Holy Spirit. And I was like, I remember coming home from school one day, and I knew my dad swore a lot. He said the F word a lot, and he took tranquilizers to calm down after work. And I confronted him. And then I got pulled out of that school. He said, we're not having the kids go there anymore. And I was like, whoa. And I was so devastated, because I had made friends there, and I trusted the teacher. And it's like, I knew something, there was something in me. There was some sort of little preacher chick trying to, you know, come out of me. Like a miniature Paul or something, but I don't think I realized that I could actually be strong and be a woman and be a believer and serve people. Like at that point, I was so selfish, because I was so broken, that I just wanted to find things for me, to live for me. Is anyone hearing me out there? Is anyone out there hearing me? I know you know what I'm talking about. Where in the beginning, it's all about us. Like I just wanted to put salve on my wounds, wounds of insecurity, wounds of thinking I'm not beautiful enough, wounds of thinking I'm not smart enough. I'm just like putting all this money on my wounds and buying things and designer this and designer that, and having these men take me to these dinners and buying me these designer outfits and buying me jewelry. No pimp, by the way, no pimp at the time. I didn't have a pimp. I was like, sex trafficker, stay away from me. I was like, F all y'all. Okay. I'm not going to ever have anyone take my money. This is my money. This is my body. I do what I want. Okay. So I was pro sex work. I was one of those girls that are out there today telling you that I loved my job. I was like, oh no, I love what I do. I love to control men. In fact, I became a dominance mistress. Yeah, that was one of my specialties. So
interesting. This is such good insight. Yeah.
When people say that they understand, okay, the lady that wrote that book that went crazy and had 3 movies. Is it 3 movies now? 50 Shades of Grey. And she, you know, she studied BDSM and all that. And she actually doesn't really necessarily come from that lifestyle. How is someone going to write a book about that lifestyle, but not be from that lifestyle? I lived that lifestyle and charged for it. Okay.
Man.
So can I tell you, it's a facade.
Yeah.
It's a game. It's a facade. Love doesn't hurt people. Real love doesn't hurt somebody. Real love doesn't whip you and tie you up and spit on you and call you names. Control you. Love does not do that. Nope. So I ended up the first couple months I was by myself, and I started working actually for the strip clubs because I had a real bad scare. You know what? Actually, everybody out there, I just want to say, don't forget, you know, if you want more deets on the story, I've got a book, and this is in Spanish, but I have one in English too. And this is my story.
What's the book called?
It's called Fallon: Out of the Sex Industry and Into the Arms of the Savior. And this is like page by page. People tell me when they start reading this book, Joseph, and I kid you not, Annie, I started reading your book and I couldn't put it down. It's like every page I wanted to turn it because it was like, it read like a movie. I wanted to see what happened. It read like Taken. It was crazy. Like, it was like, whoa, what happened to this girl? And some people tell me when they read it, they tell me, I was yelling at you while I was reading it. Annie, no, don't open that door. No, don't go back. I'm like, hey, no, I'm here. I'm okay. But so anyway, I don't want to go into the deets on the details, but let's just say I got brought into this sex trafficking web eventually, because when you're in the sex industry, you eventually will meet traffickers. You cannot avoid them. They're there. There's too much money to be made. There is an estimate, worldwide estimate. There's even one that I think estimates that people are making $300 billion off slaves right now, sex slaves.
Man.
Or 200 or 100. I mean, the United States itself, oh my gosh, the estimate is like 100 billion off porn, sex industry, all that. It's crazy how much money is spent. Can you imagine what we could do with that money? So the worldwide estimate, I'm probably way off on it, but someone just needs to Google it. And there's different stats every year. By the way, that's the tip of the iceberg. That's only what we know. What is the part that we don't know?
Yeah.
Everybody, listen to me right now. Listen, Linda. Listen, Linda. Linda, listen. Okay.
Yeah.
This type of industry, I believe it's even topping arms deals. Now, they claim arms deals is more a lucrative business, but I would suffice to say that sex for sale, pornography, child porn, all that crazy stuff that goes with it is more easy to hide because they're people. You can hide a person inside of a person. I mean, it's easy in a crowd. Guns, you can't hide.
Oh no! What happened?
Oh, I don't know. Oh, we're back though. Can you hear me?
Still
live? Are we still live?
Yeah. So
Okay,
I don't know what happened.
Oh, you know what? I didn't touch anything. I have no idea.
Well, I'm glad you're back.
My camera was still there. So I ended up leaving with him to Las Vegas because the traffickers that my girlfriend knew, they had houses across the United States, and Vegas was one of their stops. So I lived with her for a couple weeks and was with him. And, the first night that I worked, he beat me to the point of unrecognizable. My eyes were both swollen shut. My nose got broken. My eardrum got popped. Oh my gosh, I was bleeding through my nose, my ears, my eyes. My eyes were red. They were bloodshot because the blood burst in both eyes. So when I opened my eyes and you looked at me the next day, there was blood. I looked like a monster, like Frankenstein. And this was my life now. I was brought into trafficking. That's how I got brought into the sex trafficking part. And I love that man. And Joseph, and I don't know if he's listening right now, God loves him. that man was abused as a child severely by his mom. And I'm not making excuses, but hurt people. And we don't realize with child abuse, we create monsters sometimes. People create monsters. And I don't think his intention was to hurt me, because every time he did it, he would apologize and then he'd cry. And I really feel like those tears were real, because he was struggling inside of himself to not do it anymore. And even though the beatings weren't every week, you know, it was every month or every couple months. Sometimes it depended on what was going on at the time. The point is that they kept me in submission to him and in fear. And if a trafficker can keep you in fear, you'll never want to leave, because you know if you do leave, it's the mafia. You'll die. So I stayed with him for 5 years. And then when I finally left him, I went back to him. Yeah, I sure did. Domestic violence, sex trafficking wheel, same thing. Power and control. A lot of people say, you're so smart, Annie, you're so intelligent. You know, how does someone like you stay with someone like that? You know what? Love makes you do crazy things. And also the fear of my life, the fear of my family's life, you know, and I knew I couldn't work Las Vegas, you know, with him being in the same city. I had to hide. I mean, I remember one time he was chasing me with the car that I bought, a BMW, and he had the roof open and he had his gun out, and I ran every red light on that Las Vegas strip, and I hid into the fashion show mall. I'll never forget that night, because I was so scared, because I had left him and he was like after me. He was like hot for me. He'd wait for me at the escort service. He'd follow me. And it was like, you know, he kidnapped me actually too, but I just do pray the best for him. He's still alive. And I want God to get his heart, because there's something inside of him that God is trying to get to. And I know that I've forgiven him a long time ago. And that's another key, ladies and gentlemen. If you have unforgiveness in your heart for someone that's hurt you deeply, you know, of course, forgiving my father. My main premise right now is to tell everyone out there is you need to work on that. You need to let go, just like Frozen, the movie says. I love that movie because of the simple fact that song is so powerful. Let it go. Let it go. You know, be yourself and love and let go and forgive. Don't be a people pleaser, because I was a people pleaser. I watched my mom please my dad her whole life. And then I became that person to my pimps. I had 2 pimps, by the way, 2 different ones. So, you know, out of that journey, like 10 years, traffic, 10 years, and then 6 years off and on. And at the very end, trafficked myself for drugs. And that's when I overdosed on August 2nd, 2003. And I became a new creation. I became a butterfly for Jesus. I'm telling you, once I overdosed and I saw my life flash before my eyes, it's like I had a near-death experience. It was literally like I saw myself in a coffin. And I knew that it was time. God was like, you and me got to talk. I was like, okay, I'm ready, God. And I know that I know. And I'm telling you, it's so powerful because, you know, I was so afraid, Joseph. I was so afraid because when I overdosed like that, like every wall caved in my life. I couldn't see anything. It was pitch black. And it was like, I knew that I was about to die. And I swear, dude, it was crazy. Like my heart, I literally cried out to God for justice. I cried out to God for mercy. I was like, Jesus, please. Give me just one more chance. I promise. I mean it this time. And no more crying wolf to you. I will do what you say. I will make my life change. I will stop doing drugs, and I will stop prostituting myself. I will stop letting people traffic me, right? I didn't say traffic because there was still no word for that, you know, that I knew of at the time. And so that night I just never turned back. And, you know, God had to do a major work in my heart because my heart was so messed up and it was so broken. I had so many issues. And so for a couple of years, I you know, worked normal jobs, and I kept thinking about the girls that I wanted to reach out to. I was like, man, I can't leave them. I can't leave my friends, man. I can't leave my friends. I had so many good friends that I loved that were in the industry that had pimps. And I just didn't want them to die. You know, my heart was broken for them. I don't know why I'm getting so emotional, but my gosh, I feel the Holy Spirit right now. I couldn't leave these girls by themselves. And I started going down to this trip in 2005, again, 2 years after I overdosed. And I started passing out my card. It was just so simple. I put my name on it and it said, call me if you need help, Annie. And that was it. And so that's how the nonprofit got born.
Wow.
It was a heart cry. It was, I just wanted to tell the girls that God loved them. I wanted to tell the tricks that God loved them. I wanted to tell the pimps that God loved them. And that your wounds don't have to define you. You don't have to use people. We don't have to be used. You don't have to exploit others for you to feel better about yourself. You don't have to be exploited to feel better about yourself. That God loves you and he has a major adventure planned for your life. It is a fantastic adventure. Let's go on a magic carpet ride. You know, I mean, let's go. Like, it was such a revelation for me. You know, I had a dream about Jesus and he came to me in that dream and he just smiled at me, Joseph, and his eyes, they were so beautiful. And I prayed to see him. I prayed for at least a year or two to see him. And he showed up in my dream. And when I saw him, I didn't know what to say. And it was like, he looked at me and it was like he read and said things to me and he like read my mind and he didn't move his lips. It was crazy. It was like he was reading everything that I had been through in my life. And he just spoke life into me and told me, you know, do what I asked you to do. And you're ready. Love my daughters, love my people. And that's how it started. Like, really, this is like the real raw, get real stuff right now. It wasn't, I heard about it. You know, this is a travesty. This is injustice. Yes, it's all of that. But it was because I knew that I was a captive that got free, that needed to free other captives. You know? Yeah. There it is.
Wow. So when you had that overdose experience, you didn't actually clinically die? You went to hospital? Something like that?
I went to the hospital. I don't know if I died because I remember passing out and I came to a couple times. The doctors could never confirm that, but I do know that I had a heart attack.
So all of that happens. You make this promise to him. How did you actually get out? Didn't they try and stop you? Was it dangerous?
Well, at that point in my life, I had a regular client, a trick, a John, a Mark. That's what we call him in the game. He was one of my regulars, and he told me he didn't like what I did for a living, and he was very concerned about me. So in 98, I got out. The first time I quit was in 1998. But then I was still hustling on the side, and I was doing car deals because he had a car business. And so I was like, with some of the car fleet accounts, I would do sexual favors for some of them. But my partner at the time, my boyfriend, which was my trick, it sounds crazy, but he did not know I was doing that. Like, I was sneaking around. So I was still doing little small turning tricks for bigger ideas, like the corporate kind, right? So let's just say it's kind of like the Me2 movement with Hollywood or corporations where, let's say, one of the ladies that works for a big boss, she sleeps with him to get her promotion. It was kind of like that. I needed some of those fleet accounts, so I slept with the manager. I mean, I did whatever I could to get, and I got those accounts. Oh, I sure did. But under the guise of being a hustler, it was all about me. So, but when I got out that last time, you know, he's my ex now. We're friends, and he knows my husband, and we're all friends. And I raised his children with him and everything. He actually let me go. I moved out in 2005 when I had that epiphany with God. You know, I knew I needed to serve him. He let me go and I got my own place, and I had gotten a couple jobs at that point. So I was not working for his body shop anymore in his business. And I learned how to run a business, by the way, working for him. And I had 11 employees at one point, and that was a lot. And Joseph, I have 20 employees now. So it's, yeah. Anyway, it was really, really like this process of freeing myself to be myself, I should say, and really understanding what God called me to do. And it wasn't full time right away. So I want to encourage everyone out there, if ministry is one of your gifts, if you want to, let's say, open a church, start a nonprofit, do an outreach, you want to serve the poor, you want to drill water wells, you want to travel and be a missionary, maybe you want to do inner city work, whatever that looks like, it's very important work. And I really believe this is the work that is very close to Jesus's heart. That one of the things that you got to make sure with you is that you're healed, like that you're on that journey of healing, because, I think that one of the things that I didn't realize at the time was, I needed to heal even deeper, which I'm still healing. Like, I do not ever brag and say, oh, I'm totally healed. That's a lie. God is continually, he is continually replacing, wounds and putting new scars and making me beautiful. Like, he's forming me into a perfect holy statue for him. And I love it, because it hurts to have that done, by the way. I'm his vessel, and he's got this, the clay thing. He's got this smash her over here, cut that off, put her in the heat now. Let's get her hardened over here. It's like, So, the glory of doing this and the fun part is the painting and then being put on display. But that is only a tiny, minuscule piece of the ministry. Like being interviewed right now, that's a tiny piece of what I do. Yeah. It's the glorified part. Yeah. I get to talk about it. I get to brag about it. Yeah. But it's really, it doesn't show everything. And, this is a hard thing that we do. Ministering to sex trafficking victims. And by the way, not just sex trafficking victims. I minister to people that are starting ministries. I minister to women that are working with our women that are trying to help them too, because they need training and they need ministry themselves. Some of those women are so drawn to this, but they're not healed themselves. So I'm constantly keeping that part on track, and our staff as well. Like, I'm trying to help everyone be the best version of themselves that God has chosen them to be, right? So it's a full-time started in actual January 2007. That's when I went into full-time nonprofit work, full-time. Wow. And what a journey it's been. I'm telling you, it has been a journey. Okay. I was working a couple jobs during the day, and then at night I would do my outreaches. So I basically had barely any days off before I started full-time. And I sowed into the ministry. I didn't get paid the first 10 years. I'm telling you, it was not, it was a hard walk.
Yeah.
So,
How did you survive? Just like people giving you money, or
donations and people just blessing me. Actually, it was the first 9 years. Yeah. Because the first time I ever got a real paycheck from full-time ministry was in 2014. So, gosh, it's only been about 5 years. And then I fired myself for a year or two. I still worked for free, but we were really low on funds at HFJ, and I needed to push through. And then a couple years ago, the people that gave us our property gave us the property, actually physically. And then I decided to take a paycheck again. We got a grant. And so, yeah, we work off grants and private donations, and it's hard. I mean, I try to write the best grants. I have a couple grant writers, and this work is definitely not for the faint of heart. Yeah. Like it's hard, but it's very, very rewarding, very rewarding. And I think my favorite part, is part of the challenges of it. I know that sounds kind of insane, but the challenges to try to raise funds is like one of my, pains in my side. I don't like asking for money, but God's like, you're going to ask for money. You're going to ask for money, Annie. That's why I'm excited about 100X. New chapter for my husband and I. Oh, I got married too, by the way. I got married in 2009, met a man in 2007. He's in a band that some of you might know, and you might have heard of him, Joseph. I don't know if you were a rocker. How old are you, by the way?
I'm 33.
Okay, yeah. So you were just a little, wow, you were a little kid when this group came out. So this group is called Striper, and they were famous in the MTV, heyday of MTV. And they were actually a rock metal band. Pretty edgy, by the way. They wore makeup, long hair, teased their hair with Aquanet, okay? Wore very tight clothing, and they called themselves Striper. And they played music, rocked out. You guys just Google them, you'll see. And they sang about Jesus, and they said his name in the lyrics, and it was played on MTV.
Wow.
You won't see that anymore.
Yeah.
And and they would throw Bibles in the audience. They would throw Bibles, and it would hit people's heads. People would pick up the Bible, Joseph, and they would get saved.
Man.
All these kids worshiping like the devil would get saved. It was crazy. Wow. Still happens. There are so many pastors that run churches now that I could tell you about that are fruit. Speaking of podcast number 9 that you have, 9 is fruit, right? Fruit.
Wow.
From that actual band. And so I met Oz online on MySpace.
Wow, MySpace. There we go.
Yeah, we are so dating. Social media's first real boost start, right? And you couldn't have MySpace on your cell phone back then because your cell phone didn't hold even a I mean, I think cell phones started getting like their own little like internet capabilities. What year was that? Like maybe 2003.
You may be telling on yourself, so maybe you need to tell people how old you are, because I bet you no one will guess.
I'm 51.
51, guys. She's 51. I bet you no one would have guessed that.
Yeah. Man. Yeah.
So tell us, you meet this rocker man, and then I guess you fall in love, you get married. Are there any issues? Are they like from your past trying to come back, you know?
You know what? I'm not going to say it was perfect, and we still have, sometimes we have little disagreements, but Oz and I were like a pair made in heaven. I know that sounds really crazy, but he understood me and he loved me. And the thing is that ladies out there that have a past and you're dating someone and they don't know about your past, you better share it now. You better share it now. Oz knew what happened to me the first day he met me. He read my story on MySpace. There was in fact, the original story is still up there. There was no hiding. It's pretty radical. If you print it out, it's like 17 pages. I wrote it, and this was before I wrote my book. And I always wanted to write a book way back then. But so he read that and then understood me in a lot of ways. And just like he was such a gentleman. And he courted me, and he would come in town for gigs for another band that he was in. And he would be on the road with Striper. And then I remember one time I was in Japan, and we were talking to each other I think we were on Skype or something, but he was in Germany doing a tour. So it was like, man, we just fell in love with each other. And we didn't get married until 2009, but we dated for, only 5 months, like seriously dated. And we got married like within the half a year. And it was just like, wow. We went on, I was the Destiny House mom. The Destiny House had been opened in 2008. And I was the Destiny House mom. I lived there. Okay. Which when it comes to ethics and ministry, I don't know if anyone else out there knows about safe housing, but it's not really good to have a full-time house mom live there because the girls rely on that person. And if that person quits, who's going to cover for her? Like, it's just not, and it's also really unhealthy for her. She needs a break. She can't be there all the time. So, I mean, that's why we have a lot of employees, because we have around the clock care for the girls, and there's two house managers per shift. 24/7. And for me, when we went on our honeymoon, I cried when I was on the way back. I was on our honeymoon for 3 weeks because we went to Disneyland. I know that sounds crazy. Yes, I wanted to go to Disneyland for my honeymoon.
Yeah.
Because I'm a Disney girl at heart. So I was like, I got to go see Disneyland. And someone blessed us with a trip to the Caribbean.
Wow.
St. Martin. Now, before it got destroyed, obviously, on the beach. Oh, I was in heaven. I was like, this is the most amazing thing ever. And when we got back to the States, we were in California for another 2 weeks. We got back to Vegas. I told him, I said, wow, I can't do like I was doing before. I can't be there 24/7 anymore. He's like, you don't have to. We have our own place. And we were right down the street from the original Destiny House in Las Vegas. But my husband went on tour. Believe it or not, a week after we got back from our honeymoon, he went on tour for 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah, 3 months. 3 months. I saw him one time. And I was kind of mad, Joseph. I'm not going to lie. I was angry. I was like, this isn't fair. And I loved him so much. And God had to teach me to be independent as a married woman and to not be resentful and to strengthen myself. And I really got closer to Jesus at that point, more than I had ever gone before. Because he's like, just because you have a physical husband doesn't mean I'm still not your husband, Annie. Yeah, that was challenging. That was hard, but I got through it. And he still goes on tour sometimes. He just got back from a 6-week tour about 2 weeks ago. So Striper still goes on tour.
Wow.
And they sell out a lot, and a lot of people come and see them. And so it's crazy. I'm a rocker wife. I mean, we call ourselves the girls that are married to our Striper guys. We're Striper wives.
All right, we got some questions here. Somebody's asking, do you have any kids?
I don't physically have children of my own. I've gotten pregnant, but I've had miscarriages and abortions, unfortunately, from my old past. But I do have 3 children with Oz. And they are his children from a prior marriage, and they are wonderful. And they're all grown up. They're all one's 30, and the 2 younger girls are in their 20s.
Wow, awesome.
And we have 2 grandchildren.
Yeah.
2 pretty little girls. They're so cute.
Oh, grandparents.
I'm a grandma.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you a tough question here, because I think this is something that most Christians fight with. It's condemnation. Like when you have a past and the devil's trying to remind you of your past, and even some people might try and remind you of your past. What is something you can tell to people that suffer from condemnation because of stuff they did, stuff that was done to them?
Well, that is a root of shame. And then that shame root is a root of fear, right? Fear that they're going to reject me, fear that I'm not enough, fear that I'm not good enough, fear that they won't love me. So if you get to that root, you have to let God into that space in your heart and allow him to heal that piece of not caring what people think. Jesus made himself no reputation. Okay. If you are embarrassed about your past, you are not free yet. People have quoted me saying that because it's the truth. You are not free yet. And to get freed up is to tell on your past. I like to say it like this: pull open the skeletons and let them dance out that closet. Ezekiel said, God told Ezekiel, speak to the bones, prophesy to those bones. Will these bones live? They will make an army if they do. So what is your past telling you? What does your past, and I like Moses' because I was reading about Moses today. I love his story because he was a freedom fighter and he had a staff in his hand. And that staff represented his whole family lineage, right? They had all the names carved on that staff. That's when you had a shepherd, that's what they held. That staff was passed down shepherd, this lineage to family. So when he parted the Red Sea for those Israelites to go through, by the way, it was 1.5 million at that point, to go through the families, the daughters, the sons, all of them. He pressed that into that sea to open it up. He had to know who he was. And at that point, God had shown him so many miracles, it wasn't even funny. It's like he knew who he was. So one of my things to share with people is, Romans 8:1 says, therefore, there is no condemnation. There is no shame in Jesus Christ. When we receive him, he replaces that with strength and courage and the no fear attitude. Now listen, God says into Joshua, he said, I've commanded you, be strong and be of good courage. Do not fear. As Moses was with you, so I will go with you. So after, obviously they went into the promised land, Joseph and Caleb were the only original ones and then the children of the people that died in the wilderness. They were the only ones to go into that promised land. Because let me tell you how hard it is to go to that other side when you have fear. There's a lot of fear. And, I want to encourage anyone out there. You just got to do it afraid sometimes. Joyce Meyer says that. That's one thing that I remember that she would preach and she's one of my mentors and I love her and we love Joyce Meyer Ministries. They're amazing people. They've given to us. They have given us 2 vans for the Destiny House. They're just amazing, amazing people.
Wow.
And so you have to do things afraid. So if that condemnation, if some voice is speaking to you and people are putting you down, get away from those toxic people. First of all, remove yourself from the situation. Now, some of you are probably saying to me right now, Annie, but I can't. It's my own family. Well, guess what? This is what I did. Warfare is real. This is one thing that saved my life too. This book right here. Speaking God's word out loud. You take your situation. Okay, this is by Joyce Meyer. And another book that saved my life was Utmost for His Highest. Every day I wake up, this is my book. This is saved so many people in ministry. OswaldChambersBomb.com. Okay. These 2 books, let me tell you something. God's word saved my life. Declaring that over your life, whether someone believes in you or not. I remember that one of my ex said to me, well, you're still a prostitute. You're just a hoe. You're this, you're that. And I was like, what? The word says, I am a new creature in Christ. All old things have passed away and all things are new. You're a liar. Satan, get behind me. In Jesus' name, I bind you. I would say that to his face. Oh, you bet you believe he would get in a fight with me. He would say, I'm your savior, not Jesus. I'm like, oh no, contraire, mon frere. No, you're my savior, bro. Okay. Guess what? Read him in the face. Boss. I'm a boss. You're not. I'm the boss. Sometimes you just got to get sassy with the enemy, you guys.
Yeah.
You cannot receive that into your spirit. Girl, please. Boy, please. Stop it. Just say no. Be like, oh no, walk away. Bye. Bye, Felicia. I mean, that's what you just have to do. And I know that sometimes that voice is yourself. That's a whole nother level of thinking. So you have to fight that and read God's word. I'm telling you, put on some worship music, surrender it every day if you have to. Get some counseling. Some of you are afraid to go. I've never actually, you know what, you guys, I have to say I've never been to a counselor. I mean, I remember I went one time and they just couldn't, they were like, oh, you're good. I was like, oh, thanks. But I feel like maybe now I might even just go just for my own sanity, because I really feel like when you have someone else, and I've had pastors that have counseled me. These are counselors on the down low. People have given me advice. So I've had friends that have counseled me, pastors, people that are, traumatologists and all that, but I've never paid for it. But hey, who's to say that would never happen? I just know that if you invest into yourself, it's the best investment you can make. Invest time into yourself with God. Really surrender that thing. Some of these things and these feelings that we feel, they're just feelings. And that's part of trauma, by the way. Trauma brings up voices and memories that make you feel a certain kind of way. And you have to allow your cortex of your brain to fight the limbic system, which is your emotional part. That's a whole nother podcast, by the way. But your limbic system from trauma will try to override your reason in thinking. Telling you that you're not worth it. You feel this way, so that must mean that it's true. Just because you feel condemned doesn't mean you are, right?
That's right.
I hope that answers someone's question.
Yeah. And hopefully at some point we can do another podcast on trauma. If you have time, we could go through that.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of my veins of expertise right now. Within myself and the girls I serve. I'm an expert on trauma when it comes to that. I might not have a degree, but I read a lot. I actually have experience in it. I'm one of the subjects.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. We have people asking questions. How can the public help your ministry? So I've put up a whole bunch of links in this actual caption of this video, so you can check in there. Can they get their book there as well? Your book?
Yes, you can. You can actually, to get a signed copy, you have to email us. The ones on Amazon, they're sold by the reseller. I make $1 if that, or not even that, because it's the public. So because I had a book deal, but I have private books here in my office that I will sign and I will give you a word. Okay.
Yeah.
And they're $20 plus shipping. Very cheap, actually. So you can go to my website and email us at info@hookersforjesus.net. And also, you know what? If I could ask anybody, can you pray for us?
Yeah.
Because praying for us is going to be my number one thing, obviously, besides donations. We are a public funded charity. I mean, we get donations from all across the world, all across the country, in the United States. I think most of our donations come from Europe, and we do get donations from New Zealand and Australia too, by the way. We get donations from South Africa, but in Canada, I mean, in Mexico, believe it or not. I mean, it's crazy. Like, they come from all over the place. But, you know, we are survivor led. I have a team of survivors that work with me, that were in the industry with me, that I've known for years, that are part of my team now and my confidants. And we have normal people that work with us too, that have never been in the industry. So we have such a great, like, it's a meeting of the survivors with the non-survivors that want to minister, and they just have hearts of gold, that have survived something else. So they bring something to the table that combines this awesome, fiery team of power, you know. Just like it says in Timothy, I've not given you a spirit of fear, but I've given you a power with a sound mind. So I want to speak that to anyone that is struggling with fear right now. God has not given you that spirit. That spirit comes from a different place, and it's not of God. And you can rebuke that. And even if you feel it, doesn't mean it's true. That's the best way to enemy. And speaking of that, you know, 100X, like, that's something new in my life. That I joined last year, that I never had an opportunity to actually be part of, except for the past week. It's my first time. Like, I feel like a virgin. I think it's so fun right now. But so yeah, hookersforjesus.net.
Yeah.
Like a fishnet, hookersforjesus.net. You can contact us on Facebook, Twitter. I got an Instagram account. Just reach out, man. Pray for us. You want to get involved and volunteer? I'm even thinking about having people volunteer from out of state, that are in other states, that can maybe do some media stuff for us. We need all the help we can get. So
yeah, there you go, guys. Spread the word. The website's on there, and also I'll go through and reply to some of your comments and give you the details that you want.
Ooh, there's a lot of people on here, isn't there?
There have been a lot of people on here. Looks like Pedro has been on here too.
Oh, hey, Pedro. Is he on here? Yay.
I don't know if he's still on here.
Well,
everyone just making quotes of everything you're saying. People say you look 21. They're shocked at your age.
Dude, you know what, Joseph? Just speaking of Pedro, how did we meet Pedro? Because I met Pedro. He reached out to me. I don't even know how I met him, to speak at an event. And guess what it was about? It was an event at the Bellagio. It was either Bellagio or Mandalay Bay, but it was this corporate event. And it's before he was writing his book. This is so exciting to talk about this. He was writing his book. Okay. And he was telling me that he was pushing through something. I remember that. And he said, hey, listen, I want you to speak at this conference. And I want you to come out there, and I'm going to give you 15, 20 minutes. And I want you to speak on fear. And I was like, what? So I met Pedro, and Pedro was a fireball. He was so encouraging, him and his wife. And they came to Destiny House. They were such a blessing. They spoke prophetic word over me. And Pedro knows my heart. I'm working on a second book right now. He was like, hey man, he goes, you should self-publish. I was like, what? He was like, yeah, man, it's the best way to go. And I was like, wait a second. I don't know about that, Pedro. He goes, oh man, I just see so many things you could be doing. There's so many different, I go, me too. You want to see my action plan? So anyway, what I remember from Pedro was he was so excited. 100X hadn't started yet. And so he told me about 100X last year when he first was going to launch it. And I was like, God, I got super busy with some stuff and I didn't join right away. And then I was like, Pedro, I can't afford it, man. I just can't afford it. Dude, that's a lot of money. I mean, $3,000. Come on, dude. Really? And so he's like, hey, man. He goes, I'll give you a payment plan. I was like, oh my gosh. So I did that, I think in October, either September or October. And I joined and I probably saw a couple lives. That's it. Didn't do any training. Tried to get on the website. Couldn't figure it out. Was frustrated. It wasn't his fault. Trust and believe that. It was I'm running Destiny House and full-time ministry. Gosh, 60 hours, 70 hours a week sometimes. No sleep, right? So just recently, I saw this live. It just caught my attention. And I've been watching him the past couple weeks and talk about this Jeep thing. And by the way, I was online till late last night. It was awesome. It was really awesome. The worship couple, and they just signed up, and it was really awesome to see a newbie come and win that Jeep. That was amazing. For me, I would have taken the cash. I'm like, give me the cash. or I would have taken the Jeep, and then I've been thinking, my business mind is this. Oh, I'm going to sell it. I'm going to sell it and make more money than $20,000. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to figure out a way to make some money off of that thing. But I just recently joined, which I'm going to make a new live on acceleration. And I'm going to, I got my husband joined. So his web designer's in, and he's going to be learning, and his name is Greg Hay. So you guys, if you see him in the feed, welcome him on the acceleration page. So anyway, not to make this about acceleration, but I just think that God's taken me to a new level, and it's time. Yes. And I speak that over you too, Joseph. And I know he's already done something in you, and you've been with him for how long? About?
With 100X?
Yeah.
June, July last year.
So you've been almost
when it started, yeah.
How's it been for you?
It's been awesome. And I think I always say this, that acceleration didn't just accelerate my business, but it actually accelerated everything, calling, everything. And so even our connection here would not have happened without 100X. And I had Pedro on here last week, and we had a good chat, and I think he's an amazing guy. And Suzette, her heart's amazing. So I went to Vacaville last year. I went to Dallas. I may just end up in Vacaville again. I just don't know what's going on. But
I'm going to try to go. It's my birthday, and it would be a great present to give myself to go to Vacaville, right? Yeah. I know that we got tickets yesterday because we purchased or on Saturday we got 2 tickets. So I'm excited, and I'm like, hey, my husband has been doing guitar lessons online, Siraj Academy, for years. It hasn't done anything. It's never made money. And I said, babe, I think you need to I think you need to do 100X with me. I really do. I think you need to do ClickFunnels. He was like, what's that? I was like, let's do this. Babe.
Yeah. Come on.
I want my husband to, I want him to go to the next level, 100X. Yep. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Come on. Well, we've already been an hour and 10 minutes.
Oh.
So I don't know about your schedule, but this was amazing. I just want to thank you so much again for your time.
You're welcome.
And your heart, and just the Jesus that you carry. And I hope we can do this again and talk about trauma. I think there'll be a lot of people that could benefit from going through a trauma, conversation, and then that could lead in. That could lead into a course. I mean, just from what I'm saying, I don't know, maybe there'll be a trauma course that you run, and also a prototype. I feel like you have a prototype on how to take a city and how to reduce this problem in a city. And I'm seeing it going international.
I received that, Joseph. In fact, gosh, I have so many God ideas that I've had for years. And I like what Pedro said last night about the worst thing we can do is be pregnant, carrying around this idea for 5 years. What about 15? What about if you got a teenager, Joseph? What do you do with that? What do you do with a teenager? Now the teenager's starting to get an attitude like, come on, Mom, what are you doing? Ugh.
Yeah.
Like, not cool. Why don't you learn how to wear pants better? Like, I remember telling my mom how to dress, but when I was a teenager, like, Mom, please, your hair is not cool. Let me fix your hair for you. Like, it was ridiculous. Like how I tried to tell my mom how to do things. But it's like, you know what? There's so many beautiful ideas and so many things. You know what's so crazy is I got hired to do this speaking gig, and I was in this gig, and God told me you're going to do a breakout. And all of a sudden the person said, "Hey, I want you to do a breakout." I was like, "Oh my gosh, I've never done a breakout. What is that?" So I created this breakout called beating up burnout. So in other words, instead of having burnout beat us up, we beat it up itself and go, "You're out of here, burnout." And God just gave me these revelations, and my class was the fullest on that thing. It was crazy. I was like, okay, there's something going on here. There's something going on here that will probably be one of my courses. I've had a couple people email me and say, "Can I take that course that you taught?" I was like, "What course?" They're like, "The beating up burnout." I was like, "Oh my gosh, I have it. I can teach it." And it's worth money. So, yeah.
Yeah, we'll keep a lookout.
Yeah.
And when it gets closer to that time, we can jump on here and promote that here too. So
yeah. Oh, thank you, Joseph, so much. I love what you do, man. Fuse, I love it. Fuse Life, man. I mean, explain that to me. You're in a nutshell. What you mean by that Fuse Life?
The understanding is that as a human, we all have a spirit, soul, body, and a heart. And these four things, when they come in alignment, bring you into your divine destiny. And most people, even when they're so spiritual, they ignore the other three. They don't know how to handle their soul, how to handle their emotions, how to handle their mindsets. And so when you have a table that has one good leg or two good legs and two bad legs, you'll lose everything that you put on that table. So we've seen marriages lost. We've seen families broken. We've seen people commit suicide because they haven't taken care of all four aspects of what make them a human. And so Fuse Life is that fusion of everything that God has put in you, you know?
That's so good. That's so good. Balance. It's that balanced life. That's wonderful. I love that name. I'm still trying to think of the name for my podcast. I've been writing down all these different names. I'm just like, which one am I going to? So pray for me for that. I feel like I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it like within a couple days or a couple weeks. It's going to come.
Yeah.
Perfect name. Not going to be hooked for Jesus because it's something that I know God birthed in me separately from that. That's just one of my little umbrellas. So
that's right.
You know, I'm excited because I love to talk and I love to interview people. So
man, you'll be awesome.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we're just going to wrap this up. Annie, you can stay on. But guys, we're just going to wrap this up. I want to thank you for joining us. If you have any more questions or comments, put them on here. Make sure you reach out to Annie. I've got all the links on there. And you can also reach out to her on her private Facebook. And all of you that want to support, you should support someone who's watching. I really feel like you are called to be a supporter for a season. So whoever that is, I pray that you will come in. And thank you guys. We'll be back for episode number 10 tomorrow with Brian Orm. But thank you for joining us, and we will talk to you soon.
Faith and patience. Faith and patience. Patience means allow it to happen. Stay the same. Stay persistent. Keep going. Faith, know that it can happen at any moment. Get excited because it can happen at any moment. You are so close. Don't quit now. Keep pushing. You got this.